Hey everybody, and welcome to Absolute Apologetics. Today we'll be talking about one of the most popular clips that we've ever posted on this channel, which is an encounter between a supposed atheist scientist and Ravi Zacharias. Now, there's been such a flood of comments about this particular video that I felt it necessary to post the unedited version and give my thoughts. If you enjoy this video, consider subscribing. If you want to help me keep making videos just like this, you can click the Patreon link in the video description. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you don't miss an episode. Let's get started.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Ethan Kaiser. I am a scientist and an atheist, and my question is, since the Bible has been scientifically disproven as far as all the claims, the theory of evolution, archaeology, Noah's Ark, Adam and Eve, since we know this didn't happen because of our science nowadays, my question is, how do we have, according to the Bible, how do we have free will if God is this omniscient being that knows everything about us, everything we will do, and he pretty much knows our outcome before we're even created. So he creates us knowing everything we'll do. Since we can't surprise him by our actions, we have no free will. Our choices have been predetermined, and that the act of judgment is completely immoral because he knows what we're going to do. Nothing can surprise him. That's my question.
Thank you for the question. And before you go into an auditorium, if you give a sheet of paper and ask us to write 20 possible questions, that'll come. We've never heard a new one in all of these years that go by. They're pretty much the same questions. It's interesting that you began by saying, as an atheist, all of this has been disproved, and so you live with scientific materialism as your worldview. I studied under John Polkinghorne at Cambridge University. You probably know the name. One of the world's leading quantum physicists who came to exactly the opposite conclusion you did, while being the dean at Queen's College, Cambridge, as a quantum physicist, taking the same data you did. So obviously, for a man of his intellectual ability to come to a different conclusion, one would either have to say he's totally stupid to come to that conclusion, or else his empirical basis. Please don't keep shaking your head. Let me finish so that you can come and talk afterwards. So allow us to concentrate what we're saying here. I want to read for you what David Berlinski says about the scientific naturalistic worldview. Do you know who he is? No. One of the world's leading physicists who is an agnostic, borders on atheism, but took issue with Richard Dawkins's book, The God Delusion, and wrote a book called The Devil's Delusion. Here's what he said. Has anyone ever provided proof of God's inexistence? Not even close. Has quantum cosmology explained the emergence of the universe or why it is here? Not even close. Have the sciences explained why our universe seems to be fine-tuned to allow for the existence of life? Not even close. This is Berlinski talking. Are physicists and biologists willing to believe in anything as long as it is not religious thought? Close enough. Has rationalism and moral thought provided us with an understanding of what is good, what is right, and what is moral? Not close enough. Has secularism in the terrible 20th century been a force for good? Not even close to being close. Is there a narrow and oppressive orthodoxy of thought and opinion within the sciences? Close enough. Does anything in the sciences or in their philosophy justify the claim that religious belief is irrational? Not even in the ballpark. Is scientific atheism a frivolous exercise in intellectual contempt? Dead on. Now, I didn't say that, all right? I'm not quoting myself. Please give me your name, sir.
Ethan.
Ethan?
Yes.
Ethan, what you're wrestling with is not uncommon. Many people from a scientific and materialistic worldview will say what you've said and come to that conclusion. The problem is what you mispositioned was your concern between determinism and free will. Your application could have gone in many different directions, but you came to that one for some reason, which I was unfortunate, I think. At Cambridge, I listened to a talk at the Lady Mitchell Hall in 1990 by Stephen Hawking. As you know, he can't speak. He uses a speech synthesizer. His whole talk was on determinism and freedom. And you know what he concluded? That the tragedy with scientific materialism, if we take its assumptions, is that we are not free, we are totally determined. That was the world's leading physicist at that time saying, the very thing you're asking of the Christian faith, he pinned on your backs. as scientific materialists. You can go right online and trace it. Lady Mitchell Hall, 1990, somewhere on March, April, May, that time. I was in attendance. And he said, the only escape I have is since I don't know what has been determined, I may as well not be. The whole auditorium moaned and groaned with an escape hatch that he gave for himself after telling us that we were completely determined. That's Berlinski's issue. That is actually even what people like Dawkins will concede, or Pinker. You read Steven Pinker and the others. So totally determined. So the question is, were you free to ask this question? Yep.
I don't believe any of us actually have free will because we are strictly material.
So you're actually, as a machine automaton, asking me this question?
We are all made up of our past experiences.
Okay, but you're not free then. You're not free. You're not making a truth statement.
My truth statement. I mean, what I'm saying is our memories and our states.
No, hear me carefully.
Okay.
If you're totally determined,
Yes.
you're pre-wired to think the way you do.
Nature versus nurture. Yes.
Sorry?
Nature versus nurture.
Nature versus nurture.
Yes.
Regardless, the nurture may provide a different environment, but the nature is you're hardwired to come out with a certain conclusion. Out of flux, nothing but flux. You know, what you put into the computer, ultimately is going to come out. But you have to ask yourself, are you making a truth claim? If you are making a truth claim, you're rising above the bondage of total subjectivity. And the moment you claim a truth claim, you're violating determinism. And so I just leave you with that, and let's meet afterwards. Hey, Ethan, we want to chat with you. You know, you're the kind of guy we come here for. So afterwards, you come here and we'll chat with you. Come here, give me a shake hand. Blessings, love. Thanks, buddy. Thank you.
So a ton of people were skeptical of the claim that this guy trying to challenge Ravi Zacharias was an actual scientist. Some going as far as saying that he was just a plant who was put on the microphone just so Ravi could have somebody easy to respond to. Funny enough, the man who tried to challenge Ravi, named Ethan Kaiser, actually showed up in the comment thread of the video. Turns out that at the time he was just a student who was studying computer science, which kind of confirms everybody's suspicions regarding him presenting himself as a practicing scientist and an atheist, at least in the formal sense of the term. Now, today he is working in the field of AI technology, so I guess we can give him that much. Anyways, one of the most common objections from skeptics in the comments section was basically this, that Ravi didn't actually answer the guy's question. And so I've rewatched the video trying to figure out what they were talking about, but I'd like to just break it down into a question and response format so we can see if any of these claims are actually true. Now, firstly, Ravi's initial response was to Ethan's claim that the Bible has been scientifically disproven as far as all the claims through the theory of evolution and archaeology. Now, to this, Ravi took time to quote David Berlinski, famous scientist, showing that there is not a consensus in the scientific community that evolution or naturalism has proven the Bible to be untrue. To the contrary, Ravi wanted Ethan to see the words of Berlinski, a much more qualified scientist than him, who concludes this. Ravi quotes, "Does anything in the scientists or in their philosophy justify the claim that religious belief is irrational, not even in the ballpark? Is scientific atheism a frivolous exercise in intellectual contempt? Dead on." I think Ravi did well in deconstructing the opinion that the sciences have disproven the Bible by not appealing to his own opinion as an apologist, nor to Ethan's as a young undergrad student, but rather to someone much more qualified to say whether or not religion and science are incompatible, such as David Berlinski. Now, in my opinion, Ravi is not committing the appeal to authority fallacy, but he's rather showing that if Ethan's claim is true, that the science has disproven the Bible, then Berlinski would not be saying the exact opposite as a qualified scientist. The main question that Ethan asked in addition to this was, how do we have free will if God's omniscient and knows everything about us and everything that we'll do and pretty much knows our outcome before we're created? To this question, Ravi answered by saying, so the question is, were you free to ask this question? If you are totally determined, you are pre-wired to think the way you do. But you have to ask yourself, are you making a truth claim? If you are making a truth claim, then you are rising above the bondage of total subjectivity, and the moment you claim a valid truth claim, you're violating determinism. Here, Ravi gets to the bottom of the issue by showing that the evidence that we have free will is found in our ability to ask a question about free will freely in the first place. In other words, if free will does not exist, then your question has no essential meaning because it's just predetermined biological processes causing sound to come out of your vocal cords. This absurdity shows the irrationality of believing that free will doesn't exist, because if we're claiming for this to be true, then we're assuming the freedom to make such a truth claim in the first place. If all we have is biology making noise out of our mouth, then how can our claim that free will doesn't exist be considered true in the first place? I find these kinds of arguments to be intriguing, mainly because they show that you must assume the ability to freely discover and make claims about truth before ever making an assertion that can be considered valid in the first place. Now, to break down Ravi's argument a little further, let's look at it this way. Number one, discovering and claiming truth requires free will. Number two, we are able to discover and claim truth. Number three, therefore, free will must exist. Now, we've already shown the reasonability of the first premise by showing the absurdity of the idea that biological processes producing noise from our vocal cords can be considered a valid truth claim. The second premise, that we are able to discover and claim truth, can be shown as reasonable also by simply considering how reason itself could not exist in a world where we cannot discover and claim truth. Therefore, since discovering and claiming truth requires free will, and we're able to discover and claim truth, then it necessarily follows that free will does in fact exist. I believe this is a sound argument given by Ravi in response to Ethan's objection to the existence of free will. And I'm not sure how those who commented on the video saying Ravi didn't answer the question didn't see the part where Ravi actually did answer him, quite brilliantly in my opinion. It's also important to understand that since we can demonstrate the existence of free will, Ethan's original point regarding God's foreknowledge of our free will decisions really is irrelevant, because foreknowledge of a free will decision doesn't change the fact that it is a free will decision nonetheless. I want to thank you for watching Absolute Apologetics. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. If you want to help me make more videos like this, you can click the Patreon link in the video description. Don't forget to hit the notification bell